The Westworld Season 3 finale took place last night, and we got an ending with many answers but also many questions. In episode 8 we got a focus on what the revolution of Dolores actually is, and how Caleb fits into this plan. We also finally got some development for Maeve and Bernard, and where all of these main characters could be going come Season 4. Along with this we got a post-credit scene which teases a threat that was unaccounted for. I'm going to be diving into all of these plot points and characters, giving you my recap and explaining this finale. At the end of the video I will also give you my overall review. There will be spoilers for episode 8, so if you have not seen it, I'd advise to watch the episode then return for my analysis. Before I get into it, if you want to stay up to date with any of my other Westworld videos along with breakdowns for Season 3 and topical videos surrounding the future of the show, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoy it, remember to leave a like rating. Without further ado, let's get into the Westworld Season 3 Episode 8 finale entitled Crisis Theory. Starting off with William and Bernard, who have a short part to play in this episode, but a larger part to play in the future of the show. Part of last week's cliffhanger involved Stubbs, Bernard and William in a standoff, with William holding a shotgun towards the two of them. Despite Bernard's pleas, William blows a hole in the chest of Stubbs. Bernard reacts to this using the button he hasn't touched since episode 1, awakening himself and beating William to a pulp. But instead of finishing him off, he lets William escape when the SFPD squad arrive. It's revealed that one of the men is Lawrence, who helped the man in black search for the maze and was eventually killed off in Season 2, but Dolores has clearly brought him back as a copy of herself. Lawrence lets Bernard go, hinting that it's finally time for Bernard to play the role Dolores has wanted him to play all along. Handing him a suitcase and an address, he instructs Bernard to go and find someone. Later on, we do see Stubbs still alive in the back of a car Bernard drives to the address that Lawrence gave him. Inside the sleek suburban house, Bernard meets not Dolores but an elderly Lauren, who doesn't know who he is. But he knows her from another life. Lauren was Bernard's wife in a backstory created for him based on Arnold's real wife. Here we finally get to see what I've wanted all season, which is his story playing out. We see the sympathy Bernard has to his backstory that was just created for him, similar to how we've seen Dolores become connected to the real Hell's family. It's this merging of a human host's psyche, one that reiterates that the hosts were built as a reflection of the humans, but that the hosts are different and have now gained the free will to become their own species. And where it seems by the end of this episode that Hell has rejected this sympathy and backstory, Bernard embraces it, and this will guide him in his future endeavours. But back to William, who the last time we see in this episode before the credits, goes to claim money from his bank. He's rich after the Delos buyout, but since he was declared deceased, his resources were frozen. He demands that they're thawed out and wants a list of the locations of Delos assets worldwide. Again, he affirms that he has found his purpose. He reiterates that he's going to save the world, and until the post-credit scene we don't know how this will play out. At the end of this video I will discuss both of the credit scenes briefly, but I will be doing a full video tomorrow on both scenes, as I have some theories about what they could mean for the future of the show, so look out for that video. Moving on to Dolores, we begin with a short recap of her traumatic life in Westworld, where an Alice in Wonderland looking Dolores once saw the beauty in an ugly world. Now seeing how little beauty there really is, she lays out her ultimate goal. She says, "I've died many times, but there's only one real end. I will write this one myself." From this we cut to Caleb, who follows directions on an earpiece and eventually travels to find a white storage unit inside an empty building in San Francisco. He opens it to reveal a property of Delos' body bag. Inside is an old school Westworld body of Dolores, along with a few weapons. Caleb places the pearl of her into this new body, which he took from the back of her control unit at the Sonora Re-Education Center. She awakens, but Caleb instantly demands she reveal who she really is. Instead, she reveals more about him and his connection with Delos. This is where we come to the mysterious Park 5, which Dolores reveals is a park in Westworld designed to help the government train their soldiers with live targets. We see Caleb there shooting a version of Lawrence, but Dolores implies that Caleb and the other soldiers took advantage of the female hosts they saved in training. The spoils of war, she calls it. Obviously, we get the answer to this towards the end of the episode, but it gets Caleb thinking more about where he's been and what he's done. She implies Caleb didn't save her in the tunnel just because she needed help. She says that Caleb wanted her, but as Caleb remains thinking about his past, him and Dolores go on their mission towards Rehoboam. On the way, they encounter a team that Dolores has put together, who she has paid using the Rico app. The group of them enter the deserted Insight train station, where Dolores meets someone that she didn't plan to encounter. She comes across Dolores, or what is revealed to be a vision in her head. This visualized hologram version of Dolores has vengeance written all over her. Dolores attempts to express that she acknowledges Dolores and her love for Charlotte Hale's real family. However, Dolores turns her own attitude against her, denies she cares about her family, and that it's made her understand what needs to happen. To me, it seems like she has fully embraced the Wyatt side of her personality, and her experience with Hale's family has made her wake up to this. Following this brief discussion, she then launches an attack against Dolores and her crew as a hail of bullets come from gunmen on the balcony above. With her recruits lost in the battle, Dolores must face the rest of the thugs that Dolores has sent against her alone. While doing so, she instructs Caleb to complete his mission of becoming something better by uploading Solomon's drive into Rehoboam. But just as Dolores thinks she's escaped the brief encounter with Hale, she hears the sound of Maeve's katana scraping the ground. Thanks to Sebastian, Maeve was restored and is still doing Serac's bidding. Dolores implores Maeve to trust her, but Maeve won't budge. Dolores, drawing a superb eye roll from Maeve, chooses to fight half a dozen men, taking the last of them over the side of the bridge to escape. Catching up with Dolores though, Maeve accuses her of planning to burn down the world and fill it with copies of herself. Dolores replies saying, "You're all copies of me. She was the first host to work. Delos built the rest, including Maeve from Dolores." Dolores, fed up at this point with Maeve's weak reasoning for going against her, ends up overpowering her in every move, and details to Maeve that it's up to humans to decide what to do with the world. Instead of finishing her off, Dolores leaves Maeve to decide what she wants to do. She reiterates to her saying, "As long as you don't try to stop me." As Dolores is about to leave this location, the image of Dolores reappears, and Dolores freezes her using new Maeve-like powers, giving the real Maeve the chance to take her to Serac. Meanwhile, it's all-out chaos in the streets as the police and riot control robots are in full force. During this, Caleb is with Giggles and Ash. It was great to see the shirt of Giggles now reading as Excite. What this tells us is that the people, led by Caleb, are now going to take the system down. Ash eventually helps Caleb into a hovercraft after Giggles gets shot, and in a Blade Runner-esque sequence, Caleb is now finally on his way to Insight. While Caleb travels, we return to Dolores, who awakens to find herself connected to Rehoboam with the supposed data to the Delos Immortality Project in her pearl. But she still has the key to it, and Serac threatens to destroy her memories bit by bit until she gives it to him. With this happening, Caleb fights his way into Insight, and just before he can upload the USB data, Maeve appears to stop him, taking the USB and walking him to Serac. There, Serac shows Caleb what Rehoboam says will happen if Solomon's strategy is uploaded into Rehoboam. On the screen we see that the population will collapse with a mass tragedy event. Serac destroys this USB and any chance of an uprising. At this point we finally come to some well needed character development for Maeve, who you can tell is wavering between siding with Dolores over Serac. She questions whether Serac's god, Rehoboam, ever intended for her to reunite with her daughter. She can hear Rehoboam whispering in Serac's ear, telling him what to say. Rehoboam speaks with Serac's voice, so essentially, Serac is Rehoboam's puppet. Even though at this point Dolores is now down to her final memories, she is still fighting to not give up the key. But Maeve, using her host mind-reading powers, discovers in a simulation of Westworld between the two of them that Dolores doesn't actually have it. In this final sequence, Dolores relives her moments of loving William, her glimpses of human kindness, which assure her that humans will be able to create a better world after this one is destroyed. Maeve just needs to choose a side, and when she finally comes to a decision, she chooses to take out Serac's thugs, while leaving him wounded. After this sequence, Maeve also reveals to Caleb that he never abused the hosts in Park 5. He chose not to. Dolores knows because she was there, and she states that he helped them be spared. At this point, Serac calls for help from Rehoboam, but receives no reply. Solomon's access was embedded in the last memory of Dolores, which we were hinted at during the end of episode 7. Solomon has essentially taken over the system and put Caleb in charge of it. Making his first choice, he orders Rehoboam to erase itself. But despite his success, the original Dolores cannot be saved. When Caleb and Maeve leave Insight, in the distance we see explosions start to light up the sky, in an orange haze of destroyed buildings. And don't forget, Dolores presumably had Lawrence set up the explosives, signalling the beginning of a new world to the tune of Pink Floyd's Brain Damage. While this plays out, Bernard, who is still just keeping Stubbs alive, realises Dolores is gone. He says that we were always bound together and that something has changed. But we get the reveal that Bernard was the one who actually had the key to the Sublime all along, and he resolves to go there and find the answer to what comes after the end of the world. Activating the encryption key which Dolores gave him via Lawrence and the suitcase, he sends his mind into the Sublime while his body slumps. But of course, a Westworld season would not be complete without a post-credit scene, and in this case we get two of them. In the first, we find William entering a Delos International headquarters in Dubai, harassing staff for the whereabouts of hosts, who he says have bred on this side of the world too. On a lower level floor of the facility, he finds a host printer, along with Dolores, who has a new look. She has a scarred arm to remind herself of the horror of humanity. Then we come to something shocking. Out of the shadows comes a copy of William, or shall we say the Man in Black, wearing his traditional Westworld cowboy outfit. He forcefully slams the real William against a wall and eventually kills him. The real William is now dead and a host copy of him will be doing his bidding, but this time to the reverse of what the real William's newly found purpose was. While the original Dolores chose to see the beauty of humanity through their path in gaining free will, Dolores has seen the ugliness in them. And her, alongside this copy of the Man in Black, will be on a path of vengeance against humanity next season. What we see is essentially a demented version of Bernard stemming from Arnold, but this time with the Man in Black evolving from William. Dolores has created a version of the Man in Black in all his glorious darkness from when she knew him in Westworld. However, as the cam returns, a room filled with host printers lights up, setting in place the Dolores-led host uprising that we will see more of in Season 4. This new world of Dolores, it seems, is already under threat, but we don't end there because we get a second post-credit scene, this time with Bernard. We return to him at the motel, and he is now layered in dust in what must be the far future. He awakens still wearing the device that let him enter the Sublime earlier, and his expression reads a mixture of anger and vengeance. Now all we can do is speculate what he saw and what he'll see now that he's out. Again, I will be doing a full video tomorrow on these credit scenes, going into much more detail on what we could be leading towards, so look out for that video. I'm giving Westworld Season 3 Episode 8 a rating of 4 stars. Overall, I think this episode was a clear reflection of my thoughts on the season as a whole. I've really enjoyed the themes and the story that they have explored over these 8 episodes through a discussion on whether humans really do have free will. It's something the show has always been leading towards as a science fiction property. The main weakness of this episode for me personally was the fact that the intrigue surrounds what happens with this new world that Dolores, Caleb and Maeve have set in order. It very much felt like a first chapter of the real story which we are now entering into come Season 4. If anything, I believe this story could have been better off with an extra 2 or 3 episodes to really flesh out these questions and explore characters like Bernard and Maeve even deeper. As you know, I haven't loved Maeve or Bernard's storylines this season, but the finale reversed that opinion for me. Where both of these characters ended up, I'm intrigued towards where they are going. Like Bernard says, what happens after the end of the world? And this question is one that I left Season 3 thinking more about than the events of this particular story. At the same time, I think this season was necessary to show how we move into this new world. This was a good episode, but in terms of this season, to me it just felt pretty late in its development of particular characters, and mainly I found it to be a quicker and more simplified finale of what we could have had building up to this next season of Westworld. I will be doing a full review and going into more detail during the week, but overall I leave this episode with more excitement for the future and the possibility of Westworld literally becoming the real world. The orange haze of landscapes and a host army potentially coming back sets up the future of Westworld with a very interesting dynamic. William originally wanted his game and the hosts to become a reality, and now he's got his wish, even after he changed his own mind in wanting to destroy the hosts. Overall, I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes and what lies ahead for all of our remaining characters. Let me know down below what you thought of the Season 3 finale, and tell me if you picked out anything that I didn't or any predictions you have for Season 4. I'm looking forward to reading all of your reactions. For future Westworld coverage along with videos analysing the end of this season, and subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Again, if you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like rating. I will be uploading a post-credit scene review tomorrow and a full review of Season 3 on Thursday, along with posting my predictions for Westworld Season 4 by the end of this week. But anyway, let me know what you thought of the final episode down below in the comments section. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.